I wrote this in my column at LouisianaSports.net post-game. It just kind of occurred to me as I was watching the end of the fourth quarter on Saturday night. You know, the LSU-Alabama game has been kind of a defining moment for a lot of LSU's great quarterbacks this century. It started with Rohan Davey throwing for an SEC record in Tuscaloosa. Josh Reed set an SEC record in receiving yards that day as well, but just an amazing performance those guys had in Tuscaloosa. 4 years later, Jamarcus Russell completed overtime pass to Dwayne Bowe to win in 2005. Even 2011, I don't know that I would pin that on Jordan Jefferson and Jarrett Lee as a phenomenal quarterbacking effort in that game. But obviously, that was a huge win in the game of the century, and Jefferson came in and ran the option and got LSU to the finish line with a victory that game. But then you continue to move further down the line, and you look at, I mean, Matt Flynn had a huge fourth down conversion to early Doucette to score a touchdown and win that game in 2007 in Tuscaloosa. You look at Joe Burrow in 2019 outdueling Tua Tagovailoa and just scoring a ton of points in that game. You look at Jaden Daniels with the overtime pass to Mason Taylor winning that game, ultimately winning the SEC West that season. Like, every single great quarterback you can point to over the last 25 years has had an indelible moment against Alabama. And I say that, and I'm sitting there on Saturday night watching Garrett Nussmeier stand on the sidelines in what could have been his Alabama moment as a senior in Tuscaloosa. It didn't happen. One drive into the third quarter, the decision was made to bench Garrett Nussmeier. And I think it was the right decision. Here's what I think. I think Garrett Nussmeier is a horrible fit for LSU's current personnel. It's taken me a long time to come to that realization, but here I am. Because Garrett Nussmeier is quarterbacking an offense that is the worst in the SEC for the second consecutive season at running the ball. That he has very little to do with that other than the fact that he can't run himself. But like the fact that LSU's offensive line and running backs do not create a push and in fact are the worst at doing so in the SEC puts a ton of pressure on the quarterback then to kind of carry everything. And then the defenses know they don't have to respect the run. They can rush the passer. And he can't evade that rush, and his offensive line, specifically at tackle, where you've got a true freshman on one side and a revolving door at right tackle where you benched Weston Davis and went with Ori Williams. Like, the most important part of your pass protection formation is leaky. That's the worst situation a pocket passing, immobile quarterback can be in. No run game, bad tackles. Like, that's the worst recipe you could have for a quarterback that's got Garrett Nussmeier's skill set. For Garrett Nussmeier's skill set to work in the Southeastern Conference in this era of college football, you need a steady ground game and the ability to protect him so that he can go to work down the field. And last year, you did have that protection, and last year he was productive. This year, you don't have the protection, and that happened. Two things happen when that happens. One, you give up pressures, sacks, all that. Two, the quarterback thinks you're going to give up pressures and sacks, so he no longer is as effective reading the field. I think that's happening with Garrett Nussmeier. I think mentally he's surveying the line of scrimmage more than he's surveying down the field. And that's on him to an extent, but it's also a natural human emotion. It's a natural human reaction. Like, these guys may not get the job done. Like, I need to brace myself. And because of it, he's playing very poorly. And you needed to go to Michael Van Buren on Saturday. You needed to. Because Van Buren gives you some athleticism. He's not Jaden Daniels. He's not Michael Vick, but he can move. And he did so. And you need someone in this offense that can tuck it and go get you 11 on 3rd and 8. You need someone in this offense who can make that edge rusher who just beat the tackle miss and extend the play. Van Buren did some good things on Saturday. He did those two things I just mentioned, moving around. He also completed less than 50% of his throws. Some of his completions were not good throws that his receivers had to make acrobatic catches on. He's far from a polished product out there. We saw that in fall camp. But the dimension that he offers gives this LSU personnel the best shot. He can run some read option stuff. He can make guys miss in the backfield. He can extend plays. He can tuck it and go. And this is the kind of quarterback, if I have my druthers, that LSU is going to have moving forward. Somebody who can move the sticks when things break down. You look across the SEC, and really, Ty Simpson is the only guy that isn't a really good athlete. And he's a good athlete, but he's not Taylon Green. He's not Marcel Reed. He's not those guys. He is winning it from the pocket, and he's doing a great job of that, and they don't have a great running game. But I would submit that that's probably going to cost Alabama down the stretch. I think it's going to cost them in the playoffs. I mean, they scored 20 points on LSU. But this LSU offense needs Van Buren's help. And so I would start him moving forward. And that's a tough thing because Garrett Nussmeier's put a lot into this program. But he's a bad fit for what LSU currently has. He just is. Now, Frank Wilson was asked about it today. And Frank Wilson was very non-committal. Matt will have the sound on AFR. It's too tight of a window to get it turned around for my show when he has that press conference at 1 o'clock, at noon on Mondays. But essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here, Frank Wilson said, both guys will get reps this week. Garrett is still going to get number 1 reps this week, and we'll probably play both guys in the game on Saturday. And that's kind of the line he's going to give on Monday. What that looks like in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday practices, we'll see. I would expect both guys will play, and I don't expect that Garrett Nussmeier is just going to be cast aside. Because, one, he's the leader of the team. He's 18. He's a fifth-year senior quarterback, and he's been here for 5 years. And two, it's not like 10 years ago where the backup quarterback 95% of the time was going to be the quarterback the next year. So you start to develop some chemistry and some rhythm and get some reps for next year. Michael Van Buren might be LSU's quarterback next year. Michael Van Buren might be Texas A&M. Well, that's a bad example. Marcel Reed's coming back. He might be SMU's quarterback next year, for all I know. To be clear, that's based on no information. That's just the landscape. Quarterbacks transfer all the time. He might be LSU's starting quarterback. He might be LSU's backup quarterback. He might transfer out. Like, Garrett Nussmeier is not going to be the quarterback next year. But, like, there used to be a time where you would get the backup quarterback reps because he was your guy next year. We don't even have a coaching staff for this year. These guys that are calling plays may not be here next year. So, like, there's not eyes on 2026 in that building the way that there would have been years ago. It's just a different era with transfers, and now you've got a coach firing. So this is about this team. And what they do the next 3 games is about this team. And I think for this team, Garrett Nussmeier is going to be involved, but I think I would go with Michael Van Buren because I think he gives this team the best chance to win. And that's a hard thing to swallow and say because we sat here in August and looked at Heisman odds, and we sat here in August and talked about the college football playoff, and like Garrett Nussmeier still has an opportunity to become the second leading passer in the history of LSU football. Like, that's a realistic possibility for him. I'll have to check and see what the numbers are. I forgot to do that. But it's Hodson, Burrow, and Nussmeier. He's already third, and he can pass Burrow. So to just cast that guy off to the side is a mouthful when you're not even done with the season. And what we saw from Michael Van Buren in August was not super inspiring. Now, keep in mind, second offensive line, not exactly giving you a ton of protection, and, you know, working against an LSU defense can be difficult, but it was not good in August. But maybe he's just kind of a gamer. He was 5 of 11 in the game. And, you know, he needs Trey Green to help him out with the catch there, and that makes it closer to over 50%. But I think that he's the guy that you need to go to from this point. I'm going to talk later in the week about Garrett Nussmeier and his time at LSU and his story. And there were a lot of people that were very critical of Nussmeier for getting emotional once again on the sideline. You can miss me with that. There's a lot of people that are suggesting, like, oh, this kid's making a ton of money. Like, just he's not playing worth a damn. Like, who cares? And, like, I see it as on a more human level than that. It's not like Garrett Nussmeier, like, demanded money or, you know, was the first player to receive any money. Like, he's an SEC quarterback. They get money. And I don't think that because his checking account's bigger than it was 3 years ago, or he makes more money this year than me or you may at your job this year, like, I just don't think that gives you a reasonable reason to go after the kid when he doesn't play well. Now, if he doesn't give effort, if he says something you really don't like, but none of that ever happens. This kid plays as hard as he can. and he cares. Like in an era where so many players are in this for, okay, where's my NIL deal? I don't really care about the school I'm at. Like, who can pay me the most? This is a kid that stayed here 5 years. It's a kid that really cares about LSU. And for LSU fans to turn on a player that cares that much about LSU and has worked that hard for LSU, like that's tough for me to sit there and watch. I'll be honest with you. I just told you I don't think he should be the starting quarterback. I just told you I think he's a bad fit for the offense. I just told you I'd go forward with another guy. I'm not absolving Garrett Nussmeier of anything. He has not played well this year. There are reasons for that. I don't know how big the injury was. I don't know how much to pin on the offensive line. I don't know how much to pin on Joe Sloan. I don't know how much to pin exactly on Garrett Nussmeier. But I can tell you confidently that he cares, and that what I led this segment off with, talking about the great quarterbacks that have had their moment against Bama, and for Garrett Nussmeier's senior year Bama game, for him to be holding his helmet on the sideline, by the way, cheering his team on, and then getting emotional at the end because that happened to him, and watching his dream kind of slip away, where he's always, even though he's lived all over the country, wanted to play for LSU, and for that to be slipping away right now, like that's an emotional thing. It would be more concerning to me if he didn't care, if he was just motionless, if he was emotionless, if he was just, chuckling on the sideline. Like if he did not care, that would be something that I would care about. Kid that cares too much or gets too emotional, I'm not going to criticize that. His play hasn't been good enough. LSU's offense, as I mentioned in the first segment, hasn't been good enough. But this deal where LSU fans are turning on Garrett Nussmeier turns my stomach a little bit. And I'm apprehensive about Saturday. I'll talk about it later in the week, but I'm apprehensive about being in that stadium on Saturday. And I think y'all get where I'm coming from there. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.